Yo, while it may not be one of my kind of favourite TV series, Red Dwarf I feel is kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I mean, it's funny, it's kind of action packed, it's got good space jokes, and it's just a really enjoyable series to watch. I have spoken about it before, if kind of not as often as I might do for Arrowverse shows or for Doctor Who, but I do legitimately feel it's a very good series. So I decided to do what I did for Doctor Who and kind of rank some of the episodes and put together my top 10. I admit I'm not really much a fan of the kind of early seasons, but kind of by about season 5, I feel there are some legitimately good episodes in there, and kind of throughout the later series run. So here are my top 10 Red Dwarf episodes. Coming in at number 10 is the first episode of Red Dwarf 12, Cured. Within this episode, Lister, Cat, Rimmer, and Crichton end up encountering a space research lab where they seemingly find it populated by various kind of people from throughout history thought to be evil who have supposedly been cured of their evil. Yeah, manned by people like Adolf Hitler and Vlad the Impaler. Which it's weird to see that it's a weird episode to see, but then it also does provide some funny moments. I mean, you've got Adolf Hitler sounding like he's from Brooklyn, but then yeah, which I know didn't fare too well for Heil Honey I'm Home, but then you get to see Lister and Hitler kind of play guitar together, and it's actually kind of funny, which it yeah, I will admit it's not the best episode, and that's why it's at the bottom of the list. But just kind of seeing these evil characters and our favourite characters kind of be together and just have some fun together, it's weird to see, but it's kind of funny. Anyway, and number 9 from Red Dwarf 5, the fourth episode, is Quarantine. This one is particularly well known for having Chris Berry's Rimmer dressed in kind of a red and white checked kind of outfit, speaking to a hand puppet penguin. Yeah, you know this one's pretty weird. After a mission, he ends up locking Lister, Cat, and Crichton away in quarantine in case they brought back any kind of virus or kind of hologram germs that he could catch. But he ends up catching them anyway and ends up going completely loopy. Which, once again, it's known for being a classic. I wouldn't necessarily say it's one of the better ones, but yeah, it's kind of funny to see, kind of, especially when they're trying to get out and he kind of stops them in their path with telekinetic abilities that the virus has given them. It's weird, but once again, it's very funny to see. Anyway, my number 8 is the third episode of Red Dwarf 10, Lemons. This one might seem a bit strange to put up here, but I think it's fairly good. The four of them, thanks to a science experiment gone wrong, they end up getting sent back through time to Earth in the year 23 AD, where they encounter Jesus. But it's not like you might think. They end up bringing Jesus back to the future, where he ends up reading a textbook about all the wars and violence that has been committed in his name, and he decides, no, I don't want to do this. I intend to break every rule. But then it turns out that he's not actually the Son of God, but just a random guy named Jesus. Which, once again, it plays quite funny, and there is kind of a hint at the end that the real kind of Jesus has shown up, but by that point they're saying, no, sit down, we're not getting involved with this. Which, once again, it's a funny episode that plays out. Probably not one of the best, but still quite funny to watch. My number 7 goes to the second episode of Red Dwarf 12, Siliconia. You've seen Crichton for years, especially from Rimmer, kind of been put down or kind of being yelled at to do jobs. In this episode, he kind of gets kind of a bit more than you might think, as a group of rogue droids shows up and essentially frees Crichton before turning Rimmer, Lister, and Cat into droids to do all of the tasks that they had previously set Crichton. Which, once again, this one isn't the funniest episode, but it is kind of cool to see. And it is done fairly well, even if, yeah, the MILFs, as they're called, droids, they're funny to watch, but then, yeah, I admit this one isn't the strongest, but I think it's a fun episode. My number 6 goes to the, ironically, 6th episode of Red Dwarf 10, The Beginning, the final episode of Series 10, where the crew end up getting pursued by simulants, and it's ultimately a Rimmer story as he ends up playing a message from his father, and eventually finds out that his father wasn't his father, and you see him process his information and try and make something of his life in order to get them out of the situation, which is... Rimmer is an enjoyably hateable character, but just to see him grappling with this stuff, it's actually nice to see. And his resolution at the end is rather nice. But following on with Rimmer, my number 5 slot goes to the 5th episode of Red Dwarf 6, Rimmer World, where this time his cowardice comes front and centre. He ends up escaping from a collapsing spaceship and ends up going through a wormhole and getting stranded on a planet for 600 years, and then attempts to create life so that he has someone to keep him company, but ends up with a planet full of backstabbing cowards before the crew finally manage to rescue him. It's enjoyably fun to watch, just to see him get what he deserves, but then a bit more than he asked for. It's funny to watch, and I do think it's a good one that people should check out. Anyway, my number 4 goes to the 2nd episode of Red Dwarf 10, Fathers and Sons. This one, it's a bit of a mind trip, but it's once again, quite fun. The crew gets a new computer, and it comes with predictive abilities. So, similar to predictive texting on phones, it's able to predict your actions and then do those actions for you. Only this leads to quite a lot of trouble, especially with Lister trying to figure things out, because due to some time travel, he's ended up being his own dad, so he's trying to be a father to himself, and it ends up in chaos. Which the supercomputer she's funny, but she's also blunt and at times quite sarcastic. But yeah, she's a fun evil character to watch, even though, like HAL 9000, she's just following what she thinks is logic. But yeah, as I said, it's fun. Anyway, my third entry once again from series 12, episode 6, Skipper. This is technically the last episode to play. I mean, Red Dwarf is still going, but this was technically the last episode that we've seen, in which, thanks to some time stuff, or thanks to a space accident, they end up... It's trying to explain this one. They end up living out the results of decisions that they haven't made, but because of this, they end up creating a device that allows them to quantum skip to other universes. And Rimmer attempts to use it to find a universe where he's actually quite successful. And in the end, he does actually find one, only to find that Lister is more successful than him, which, yeah, once again, dimension hopping can make for a good episode, and here it really does. So yeah, just have fun with it. My second spot goes to the 3rd episode of Series 6, Gunmen of the Apocalypse. Crichton has to go into a dream state in order to fight off a virus that has infected Red Dwarf, and it takes the form of a Western, which Lister, Kat, and Rimmer eventually have to enter in order to help him out. Which, it's fun seeing the team in a Western setting, and it is done fairly well in the style of old spaghetti Western films. Yeah, I think it's a good one. But my number 1 spot goes to the final episode of Red Dwarf 5, Back to Reality. This one is also fairly famous. Essentially, the crew end up dying on a mission and waking up to find that their life was actually a computer game. only to find that their real life isn't quite kind of as picturesque as they'd hoped, and they kind of end up trying to commit suicide before it turns out that it wasn't reality at all. Which, once again, is a fun kind of trope that I think works fairly well here. But there you go, my top 10 episodes of Red Dwarf. I advise you check them out. It's a pretty good show. Until next time, see you.